Let's talk about Shackleton Base. Hi everyone, welcome to Table Scraps. I'm Ben Mandelker, and today I am very excited because I am going to be doing, for the first time ever on this video channel, a board game review. I know, this is big, exciting news. Can you believe it? A board game content channel that has never done a review. Well, that's changing today. I have decided today is the day to do a proper deep dive. There were a lot of games I could have chosen, a lot that are always on my mind, but I decided that for my first review, I had to choose a game that I really love, spoiler alert, but also a game that I made a promise to on the last episode. I promised Shackleton Base that I would review it, and as a journalist, as a member of the integrity community, I felt it was important to keep my word. So today I am doing just that. I am going to review Shackleton Base, a game that came out last year, aka 2024, and I am really excited to share my thoughts on it. Joining me today is a guest who I don't really know very well, but I could already tell we're gonna have great chemistry. Someone who's brand new to the board game scene. Please welcome to the Table Scrap Studio, Speakeasy. Hi, Speakeasy. How are you? Welcome to people's homes. Welcome to board gaming. Now, Speakeasy, you're brand new. You just got here. Doesn't mean your opinions will be any less valid. But I do expect you to appreciate pecking order. Okay, like I say, listen and observe, and think before you speak. I know, but just try. Anyway, Speakeasy is a brand new Vital Lacerda game, and with any luck, I'm playing it tonight, if not in 2 days. So we'll see how that goes, but very excited for some Speakeasy fun. Okay, but this isn't about Speakeasy. This is about Shackleton Base. Real quickly, be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, just engage with the video. It really helps me grow this channel. So thanks very much for that. Really, really appreciate it. Shackleton Base is a 2024 game designed by Fabio, Lopiano, and Nestore Mangone, art by David Sitborn. It's a Euro game, takes place on the moon, hence why I'm dressed in white. This is my nod to being an astronaut, but actually it just may make me look washed out, but you know, hey, that's okay. I'm essentially just a big thumbprint today, but you know, I tried to be thematic in how I dressed. But anyway, yes, this is a very interactive game that involves area control, worker placement, tableau building, Meeple Management, and I'm just going to say it right now, joy induction, because I definitely feel that mechanic when I play this game. There's a lot that's going on in Shackleton Base. I'm going to just try to give as quick of an elevator pitch as possible because I don't want to get in the weeds of how things work, but I want to give enough context that you can follow along with the points I have to make. So let's start here. The flavor text is that in Shackleton Base, we are building a base on the moon and it's being underwritten by 3 corporations. And naturally, it is our duty to appease corporate overlords. At the start of every round, you're going to get a selection of different colored meeples, and these are actually called your astronauts, and you'll be using them to activate actions all around the board. So place an astronaut here, you can build a building on the moon. If you place an astronaut here, you can build a card for your tableau. Put an astronaut here on this area, you can do what's called a corporate action. And one of the more exciting things you can do with a corporate action is it allows you to interact with the 3 corporations that you're trying to curry favor with. Now, each game has 3 different corporations that change up the experience. And I really have found that like succeeding in Shackleton Base really means kind of being able to navigate between and interact amongst all these different corporations. And the better you can do that, the more you can find your synergies, the more successful you'll generally be. Now, you're probably wondering why these meeples all have different colors. And that's because any meeple can do any action. But if you coordinate the color of your meeple with the action, you're going to get certain bonuses and benefits, and you really want that. But in addition to getting bonuses on your worker placement stuff, there's actually a really important use for these color-coded meeples. You can place them around the perimeter of the moon, and when you do, you can activate an entire row of buildings. Depending on the color of the meeple you use, you're going to get a different thing. So a yellow astronaut's going to get you resources, and a red one will get you money, and a blue one's going to get you benefits that kind of coordinate with various corporations. And basically at the end of the round, whoever has the largest presence in those rows that you just activated can actually claim those meeples and add them to their player board, which, long story short, is a way to build your engine going forward. And that's an engine that's going to improve income or discounts or endgame points, things like that. Now, there's a lot more, but I don't really want to get in the weeds with this. Just know that you're probably on your turn going to build infrastructure, grow your tableau, or interact with the corporation. And if you don't do that, then you're going to activate buildings for a windfall of either resources or money or who knows what else. 3 rounds, highest points win. So that was my little rules explanation on Shackleton Base. Let's get into the things I really like about the game. I've got my handy dandy cliff notes right here. Okay, let's just start broadly. Let's start broadly with this. This is just great worker placement. My favorite worker placement games are the ones where when you take an action, you feel on a fundamental, deep level that by not doing another action, you are totally destroying your game. I love a worker placement game where every choice you make feels like you're giving up something super precious. It's like, oh, I want to build right now on the moon, but if I build, I may be giving up a chance to buy that card over there. Or even it may even be something like if I build, I'm using up the money or the resources that I need to buy that card. You feel like you're constantly giving something to someone else. And I think the best worker placement games, whether it's Agricola or Barrage, when you feel like you are struggling to even choose which action to take because everything seems so juicy and you can't bear to give it to your opponent, but more importantly, you can't bear to have your opponent take it away from you. That to me is great worker placement. And this game really has that feeling. There's really only 3 significant worker placement areas in this game, but the price for taking those actions goes up, and there is a limited number of times you can take that action. So you really feel it. And I love that in this game, that there's just sort of like a base level of good Euro design in there. And so we're already set up for fun success. Also, as I mentioned in the rules, there is a bit of area control on this map. And this is the kind of area control I like. I cannot stand area control where you do all this stuff to put some cubes on a map and then someone comes and takes the cubes off. There has to be more to it for me than that. If you were going to do that cube thing, like at least make it like Twilight Imperium, where there's like a huge amount of flavor around it and excitement and die rolling. But you know, I hate that when you just put pieces on a map and then someone plays a card and they all come back. It's like, what's the point? Why am I playing this game? But this is a sort of area control I really like, where it's actually more like area majority, where you are racing to get things onto that map. And it doesn't feel mean in the sense that someone is removing your hard work. It's just more like if you don't do it fast enough, someone's going to get there before you. I always say there's a difference between feel bad and cutthroat. Like mean is where I'm going to knock over your sandcastle. Cutthroat is like, I just built my sandcastle where you wanted to build it because you were too slow to build it in the first place. Sorry. And like, I'm kind of down with that. I'm okay with that. And I think that Shackleton Base does area control in a way that is very exciting because it feels like there's an urgency, and that ties in beautifully with the worker placement stuff. Like I have to get that worker placement spot because I have to build that building. I need to get that building there as soon as possible. Except the problem is I want to do 5 other things first. Great. That's great tension. And probably the biggest sort of broad stroke thing I'm enthusiastic about is one of the major hooks of this game, which is the idea that there are 3 corporations in every game. So the box comes with 7 corporations. There's an expansion coming out soon where I literally cannot wait to get it. And that one's going to have more corporations. I've actually never played with the 7th corporation. I say 7th because they're actually ranked for like, not most difficult, but like simplicity to complexity. And the seventh one, I've actually never played. I kind of was like saving it. I'm savoring every moment, and then I saved it too long and now haven't played it. But I'm excited. I love that there's still more for me in this game a year later. But what's really cool is there are some, recommended setups for beginners, which you can totally do. But I think I calculated that with seven different corporations, I think there's like 35 different setups. And I think that's really awesome. The variability is fascinating. Seeing the way they interact is really fascinating. Some of the corporations, the simpler ones, like add really basic Euro-y kind of things, like interact with this corporation and you can exchange these resources and get this perk or this benefit or these points. Really, really basic stuff that's actually borderline not interesting. However, it's not uninteresting as a whole because when you play with other corporations that are doing bigger and fancier stuff, it's actually kind of nice having these sort of more basic things that you can do. And then trying to synergize sort of a basic contract with something more complex winds up creating a really interesting and fun alchemy between these corporations. So the way these corporations all work together is really neat. But that being said, I'm really hoping that the future corporations lean into even more dynamic gameplay. One of my favorite corporations in the game, I forget what it's called offhand, but it's essentially a way to build more buildings onto the map, some like NPC buildings. And that ramps up the tension in terms of trying to get to places to stake your claim on the land, because these NPC buildings, their farms might take up spaces on the moon. I love that. It changes the board state in a way that the contract corporations don't. So just the way that this game kind of sort of plugs in modules in a seamless way and has them interact with each other is really brilliant. That, like, for that alone, you could probably just stop the review and be like, yes, I'm going to buy this game, because it's really doing something clever here. One of the strengths of Shackleton Base is the way that it handles a board state. This is a very, very interactive game. I already talked about area majority. But something I really enjoy is not just that we're fighting for presence, but we're also keeping a really sharp eye on what people are doing, because we're trying to piggyback on them all the time. I love a game with piggybacking. That to me is such great interaction. Leeching off other people. God, the American dream. I love it. What I mean in this case is that when you build in Shackleton Base, there's these hexes, and each hex can accommodate a certain number of buildings. I think technically 3. And it's expensive to build in a hex. And if you're the first one to build in a hex, you have an added expense. So you've got to build a solar panel to power the buildings in your hex. And who wants to spend their resources on a solar panel? But someone's going to do it. Now, the moment that someone goes into a new hex and builds the solar panel, it means that future people don't have to build that solar panel. It's already there. So when someone does that first step of buying the solar panel, everyone is keeping an eye on it because they want to be the ones to be able to get a cheaper build. So this has actually really big ramifications, because if you're sensing that someone is about to expand into a new area, you then are maybe trying to do different actions instead and try to time it so that way you'll be ready by the time they do it. But then maybe they're taking too long and you're like, but I have to do my build now because I need to do something right after my build, and I can't wait any longer to delay my build, but I don't want to build if they're going to build in that area. But like, okay, well, where's another place I can build if they're not going to build that? Blah, blah, blah. You're like, there's all these decisions, and so many of the choices are connected to what other people are going to do. And that is a great sign of interactivity in a game. Also, I absolutely love the idea that we can place astronauts around the perimeter and activate rows of buildings. This is very reminiscent of the game Santa Maria, which basically you are creating a landscape, and you want to put things on that landscape, and then you put a die down and you activate rows or columns of that landscape. And the tension is you want to grab a die before anyone else does, because you really need that die to activate your landscape. But at the same time, you don't want to activate your landscape until you juice it up more with more tiles. And so that's what this game has too. It's like you want to put a meeple down and get a bunch of resources, but maybe You want to build in that row first to get even more resources or to get some benefits from you or to not have to pay a surcharge on something or another. But if you wait too long, then someone else is going to activate that row and you lose your chance to activate that row. It's a delicious tension. It works so well in this game. And what's nice is that on Santa Maria, you're doing it on your own little board, but here it's a shared board, so it really raises the stakes even higher. This game also has some really smart interconnected design. There's this really cool connection between building on the map and buying cards for your tableau. When you build on the map, chances are you will often be buying a solar panel. When you buy a solar panel, the benefit of that is that there will be some energy that gets added to this communal pool on the moon. And when you buy cards, you actually need to spend some of that communal energy to get your card. So the more people build, the easier it is to buy cards for other people. On the flip side, if energy is low on the moon and people want to buy a lot of cards, they're going to have to build solar panels in order to get the energy up to buy those cards. So if people are buying a lot of cards, you might just wind up with a whole bunch of solar panels that are there for the taking, which makes building easier. I really enjoy how these two aspects work together. I think that's like a very intelligent sort of economic design that they came up with. And I love that synergy. If anything, I almost wish it was like a little bit more amplified because I like the feeling. I love the feeling in a game when someone says, well, now's a good time to buy cards. Everyone, you should buy cards. Or, oh, this is a good market for building. I really enjoy that low-key market that runs throughout this game. One thing that I think is really great in this design also is the way we interact with corporations. You can interact in two different ways. One way is by buying cards from the corporation. I didn't explicitly say this, but when you get cards in this game to build your tableau, all the cards you buy from corporations, which means that depending on which corporations are in play, that is going to dictate what the playset is. So you'll have different cards every game. And so, hello, more variability. Again, just even that, like, love it. But also, you really want to get these cards. They help you interact with the corporation in different ways. Another way to interact with the corporation is by activating what's called a corporate token. And those live on the map. The more that are on the map, the more of those interactions you can have. And you really, really want that. You kind of really, if you can maximize how many interactions you can have with those tokens, especially in one fell swoop, like all the better. And a lot of times, the benefits you get from those corporate tokens work beautifully with the cards. In fact, some cards might not even work unless you have those benefits from the corporate tokens. So you need both to work together to get like a sublime interaction with the corporations, which of course is what you are going to need to get towards victory. But here is the thing. The more tokens you put out on the board, the more expensive the cards become for that corporation. So you think to yourself, okay, let me get a whole bunch of cards first before the price goes up, and then let's get the tokens out so that way I can then activate tokens and use them with my cards to have this great moment. But then you're buying cards and you're not getting any utility out of it. So you're like, well, maybe I should do the tokens first, but then you do the tokens and now your cards are more expensive to get. I'd love a game that has that kind of seesaw thing where if you do one thing hard, the other thing goes down. It's like hard to describe, but it's just a great little design thing. I hope you follow that because I love it. And there's also like just something clever with your engine building. Everyone has a player board, and that's where all your buildings live. And when you build on the map, they come off of your player board, they go onto the map. And as they come off of your player board, you open up empty spots, kind of like Terra Mystica style. And if you put meeples in those spots, then you are going to activate parts of your engine. So you might get some sort of income, you might get a discount on worker placement, etc. And so the way you put meeples on there is by winning those area majorities at the end of the round, as I described before. And so there's some really cool stuff here as well in terms of the design. The smaller buildings are more impactful for your engine. So you really want to get your engine in a good place. But the problem is the smaller buildings are less likely to help you win area majorities, the area majorities that would win you the meeples to be put on your player board so you can activate your engine. However, you can put out bigger buildings, which cost a lot more, but they usually give like one-time benefits or something else. So yes, those big buildings could definitely attract workers to your board, but then you may not have as strong of an engine to plug them into. Just more smart stuff. The game has all sorts of tensions between two things that you really want to do, and they are sort of like ironically opposed to each other. So just clever design everywhere, left and right. So you have this game that has these really clever ideas about area control, building your engine, card play, all this great stuff. And what I love is that on top of all this, there's this layer of Meeple management. And it's like the designer said, how can we just like turn the knob up even more to make an even more interesting decision? I love the idea of not just trying to get your meeples to do the right thing in the right places, but I love attention that's like, hey, if I put my yellow meeple on the moon, I can get a whole bunch of resources, and then I can use those resources to build something. But then you realize that you don't have another yellow meeple to build, and you really need your yellow meeple to build to get the full benefit of it. So you're like, okay, but then I can't get my resources from the moon, but I need, so you like, where does the yellow meeple go? Where does the yellow meeple go? I love that. I love that. It's like on top of everything else that you're trying to juggle, you also have to deal with the colors of your meeples. It's so good. I love it. Some downsides, I think that the rule book could be better. I don't know if it's been improved with the Pandasaurus version. I have the Sorry We're French version that was came out in 2024, and that rule book was a little rough. It felt like a translation issue, so I had some grace with it, but I definitely had to go to BGG a few times. There is errata, and I'm hoping they improved it with the second version. But just be aware that the rules may be a little rough to read. Some people find that the rule set is really hard. I actually don't. I think it's like you go here to build, you go here to get a card, you go here to activate corporate actions, you build, you activate, whatever. But it can be confusing. So there's definitely been some feedback that the game's rule set's a little tricky to digest. I don't think it's hard at all, personally. As a player, everyone has asymmetric powers. It's like a small asymmetric power that can be upgraded over the course of the game. It's really neat. I really like the concept of this. I feel like the powers feel a bit tacked on. There's only 4 you can choose from also. I would have liked more variety on that front. And I don't know, I would have liked that amped up just a tad. It's such a minor quibble because I enjoy the powers. I enjoy the idea that you can upgrade them, but it just doesn't feel as interestingly fleshed out as the other stuff. I don't really know if I have too many other like criticisms of the game. I think this is one of the best games of last year. I think it's one of the best Euro games of the last several years. I think it's an instant classic, personally. I think it's wonderful. This is a game that has the potential to have so many interesting, fascinating expansions. It makes me very excited to see what they're going to do with it. I think Shackleton Base is like pretty close to a masterpiece, honestly. It's a wonderful game. Deep, tough decisions, smart design, and I love the sense that the designers were like, here's another way to make this fun. Let's think of something really tricky. Yeah, you've got a battle here for area control, but you also have to manage all these different colored meeples, and you've also got to build a tableau, and you've got to find a way to make these all work. And then there's these 3 different modules that may not mesh together beautifully, and you've got to find a way to find that beauty between the corpse. Like, it's just so good. I'm every time I play it, I'm endlessly amused by it, and I'm endlessly impressed with everything about Shackleton Base. This is a game that rivaled my #1 game of last year, which was Railways of the Lost Atlas. There are times where I think maybe this is even the better game. I really don't know. But as a Euro game, as a deeply interactive game that's puzzly and fascinating and always kind of evolving, Shackleton Base is a real wonder. So I highly recommend getting this game. I love it. And I think it elicits a huge amount of gameplay with honestly not a huge amount of rules. People may debate me on that one. That's okay. But I think it's a pretty, I won't say elegant game, but it approaches elegance. It gets there. So Speakeasy, what did you think? Did you have anything to say now that you've listened to my entire review? No? That's okay. That's okay. Thanks everyone for being here and listening to this review. I'd love to hear what you say. Have you played Shackleton Base? Are you as enthusiastic as I am? Am I deranged? Am I high on my own supply? You let me know, but I want you to tell me about Shackleton Base. Tell me about your experiences with it. Tell me any stories. Write a comment down below. Remember to share, subscribe, do all the fun things. I can't wait to get into it, and I can't wait for the expansion. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Speakeasy, for joining me here today. And I'll catch you all on the next Table Scraps. Bye.